Here's the top 15 best Pack-a-Punch weapons in Black Ops 6 Zombies, from the best weapon to spawn in with, to the best weapon for each boss fight, to even weapons that make getting round 100 easy. This list has them all. However, one thing you have to keep in mind is with how weapons work in BO6 Zombies, different weapons are better at different things. So depending on what you're doing, the number one weapon on this list might not be the best weapon for you, but there will be a weapon somewhere on this list that is perfect for you and your playstyle. So let's hop right in. But first, if you want to see any more top weapon lists for BO6 Zombies as we get new DLC weapons in the future, make sure to unlock the subscribe button. Starting off in the number 15 spot, we have the LW3A1 Frostline, and at first glance, this sniper looks basic. However, the magic happens once you Pack-a-Punch it. It gets a special Pack-a-Punch ability that allows it to rechamber much faster, and if you combine this with its really high headshot damage, you get insane damage per second. This weapon does so much damage per shot that if you max upgrade it and use the dead first dead shot augment, you'll be doing 82,000 damage with your first shot on a zombie. That's enough damage to one-shot headshot a zombie even on round 100. Now on top of this, the Frostline also does really good damage to bosses as well, as long as you're hitting crits. However, this weapon does come with downsides. If you're not hitting headshots, it does way less damage, like only 6,000 damage per shot, and it's also not a good weapon to spawn in with because it's not good till you Pack-a-Punch it. So if you spawn in with it, you're gonna struggle till you open up the map. So when it's at its best, the Frostline is amazing, but you have to be hitting non-stop headshots to make full use of it. That's why we put it down all the way at the number 15 spot on our list. These are the attachments on our Frostline build. Moving on to number 14, and it's another sniper rifle, this one being the LR762. It does nothing special before you Pack-a-Punch it, but once packed, it shoots explosive bullets, dealing large amounts of damage in a big radius. It's also a wall buy on both Liberty Falls and Citadel, making it easy to get after your match has started. The LR762 is good for easily blitzing past rounds on lower rounds and does good damage to bosses even on medium to high rounds. However, it's held back by its fire rate and it just shoots too slow to keep up once you get to the higher rounds. Here's the build for the LR762. Number 13 is the C9 SMG, and this is just an all-around good weapon. It's a nice weapon to spawn in with as it holds up for a while without being Pack-a-Punched, but when you do Pack-a-Punch it, it gains a special ability of faster fire rate, and this is one of the better special Pack-a-Punch abilities you can get. It's a wall weapon you can buy on both Liberty Falls and Terminus Island, and it's pretty solid up until about round 40-ish, then it falls off like most other bullet weapons. Here's the class setup, and yes, this was the class setup I was using in game. However, sometimes this blueprint bugs out and gives me a free sight. Now, while we're here, there's something important we need to go over. For most of my full auto weapons, I am using the CHF barrel and the rapid fire attachment. This is how you get the maximum DPS for a weapon. However, it adds a lot of recoil. So if you make one of these builds and you go in game and the recoil is too much and you can't control it and you're missing headshots, I recommend you start by taking off the rapid fire attachment. The CHF barrel is more important than rapid fire. So by taking off rapid fire, we're not going to have as much recoil, and we could put on something like recoil springs, which is going to make it a little bit easier to control. Or if you want, you can take off that and you can put on an optic of your choosing. It really just comes down to personal preference, but this is the way I run it. For number 12, we have the Krieg-C assault rifle, and this is one of, if not the single best weapon in the entire game to spawn in with. This is because it has amazing damage, great range, and a 70 round mag, all without Pack-a-Punching it. This is why you see a lot of speedrunners spawning in with this weapon, because it's really great before you even Pack-a-Punch it. You can also use underbarrel launchers on it, which is a massive bonus, but we'll talk more about that later. Now, when you Pack-a-Punch the Krieg, it's still very good, but it doesn't get a special Pack-a-Punch ability. So it slowly starts to get more and more outclassed as the rounds get higher. So it's an amazing weapon to spawn in with, but it's just okay for high rounds. Here's the class setup for it. For the underbarrel, I either use the smoke launcher or the standard launcher depending on the map. If I'm playing Liberty Falls and Terminus, I use the smoke launcher. However, if I'm playing Citadel, I use the standard launcher. Number 11 is the Akimbo Strider pistols, and these are another set of weapons with super high theoretical damage, but they have a skill gap to use. Once Pack-a-Punch, they shoot much faster and you get 80 bullets in each pistol. And if you manage to spam fire these fast and mostly hit headshots without missing, you can do crazy damage. But if you're using these and you're missing a lot of shots or you're not shooting them at their maximum speed, you're just better off using a full auto weapon. Personally, I find that switching my Akimbo behavior setting to paired does help me out when I'm using these pistols. Then here's the class setup for the Striders. For number 10, we have the SVD, and this is another sniper that changes when you pack-a-punch it. When pack-a-punch, the SVD becomes the best shotgun in the entire game, doing great damage, and it can even one-shot normal zombies on round 100. And even though it's a shotgun now, it still has great range like a sniper rifle and can hit zombies and bosses from far away. However, it shoots a little bit slow, so on higher rounds, it's just okay. Here's the class setup for the SVD. Next, we have a bonus weapon, this being the ray gun. The ray gun's in a really weird spot in Black Ops 6. It's not the best weapon, but it's also not the worst weapon. Overall, it's pretty good, but in my opinion, it's not worth going out of your way to try to get the ray gun in your match. However, if you do randomly happen to get the ray gun, whether it be from the box or a side Easter egg, it is worth picking up. The biggest advantage the ray gun has is you don't have to use any salvage to upgrade it, but once you get past round 45, the damage on the ray gun falls off pretty hard and it just can't keep up in my opinion. Coming in at number 9, we've got the PU-21, and for the most part, I've not been a huge fan of the LMGs in this game, but this one's got a large amount of pure damage. And the more I use it, the more I like it. It has tons of bullets, and it's not as slow and clunky as you would expect an LMG to be. All of the LMGs in Black Ops 6 Zombies get a special ability when you pack-a-punch them. The longer you hold down the trigger, the faster they shoot, and if you combine this with the large magazines they have, you can do large amounts of damage to zombies and bosses. Now, unfortunately, all of the gameplay you've been watching isn't from the PU-21. It's the GPM G7. However, the PU-21 is broken on my account right now, and if I try to equip it, I get crashed back to the main menu every single time. So for now, just pretend all of the gameplay that you just saw was the PU-21 and pretend like it was doing a little bit more damage overall. Now for the class setup, once again, this is the GPMG. However, the attachments for the PU-21 are the same, except the PU-21 doesn't have an extended mag 4. For the PU-21, you want to use the extended mag 2. And personally, I like to use the crossbar attachments on the LMGs, but some people prefer to use tac stance for the LMGs instead. So try out both and see which one you like better. To use tac stance on an LMG, you have to take off the crossbar and you want to put on the tactical laser. Coming in at number 8, we have the KSV, and this is one of my favorite weapons used in the game. It's a great weapon to spawn in with, does great damage, and it shoots faster when pack-a-punched. It's a wall weapon on Citadel, so it's easy to get a higher rarity version without spending any salvage. It also has a lot of ammo, so you don't have to worry about running out and wasting a bunch of points buying ammo over and over, like other SMGs. It even holds up and is still usable on higher rounds than most of the other SMGs, and it just works well in all situations. And this is more of a subjective thing, but it's just a fun weapon to use. Here's the KSV setup. Now for number 7, we have the Siren 9mm Special, and this weapon's just a beast. It's one of the best full auto weapons. It's a great weapon before you pack-a-punch it. It shoots faster after pack-a-punching it, making it even better. It holds up really well on high rounds, has a ton of ammo, so you're not going to waste a lot of points using it. It's also really good for manglers, abominations, amalgams, and even boss fights. The Siren 9mm is a really good choice to use to beat any of the Easter eggs on any of the maps. You cannot go wrong while using this. It's a jack of all trades. And here's the class setup for the Siren. Then for number 6, we have the Sigma rocket launcher, and this is one of the most powerful weapons in the game when used properly, but it's a very situational weapon. It's a terrible weapon to spawn in with, and having PhD while using it is a must. Once pack-a-punch, it becomes full auto and has 3 rockets per mag and does insane damage. But the downside being is that it has very little ammo overall, so even though it can easily kill bosses and zombies on any round, it's just too expensive to keep buying ammo for. However, if you use the Free Fire Gobblegum with the Sigma, you can spam shots non-stop for a full minute, allowing you to do massive damage to everything. And this is the fastest way to take down the Patient 13 boss fight on Terminus Island. The Sigma is 10 times better than any other weapon when it comes to this boss fight. Now with Citadel Del Mar, the Sigma got even stronger as there's traps around the map that you can spend 1,600 points on and have unlimited ammo for the entire time the trap is active. So using one of these traps and just spamming the Sigma at the ground is a super easy round 100 method. And once the trap ends, just move to the next trap, spend another 1,600 points, and do this over and over again till round 100. But be warned, if in your game you talk to craft and you don't do the Easter egg steps that involve these traps, they're only going to last for a few kills. So either don't talk to craft at all, or if you do talk to them, make sure you at least finish the Easter egg step that involves these traps. This is the class setup for the Sigma. Now for the top 5, and at number 5 we have the Akimbo GS45s. These aren't the strongest weapon on the list, but they're such a powerful tool. Once Pack-a-Punch, these become the Mustang and Sally shooting explosive bullets, so you might want to get PhD. They're a wall buy in the spawn room of every map in the game, so if you spawn in with a wall power gobblegum, use it, and get these off the wall, you'll instantly get explosive pistols on round 1 and quickly blitz the first 10 to 20 rounds in spawn, making your early game setup super fast. These are also great for doing Easter egg steps and quickly clearing vermin and parasite rounds even on the higher rounds, but the biggest downside is that these things fall off pretty fast and they have ammo issues, so they get pretty expensive once you triple pack them. So the Akimbo GS45s are very useful for a lot of things, but they're not the best high rounding weapon. Here's the class setup for the Akimbo GS45s. Next, for number 4, we have the power drill, and it might seem odd to have a melee weapon this high up on the list. However, the drill is significantly better than the other 2 melee options. It does the same damage as the knife and it swings faster than the bat. It also has very little lunge on top of that. And since you have a melee slot, you always have a melee weapon, so you might as well be using the best one. It's a great weapon to whip out and use when you first spawn in, and once max upgraded and fully packed, it's always a one hit on zombies and it deals a ton of damage to specials and elites. So it's a little bit risky, but it's a great boss killer. Then for the number 3 spot, we have the Akimbo Sogs, which technically have the highest DPS of any full auto weapon in the game, but they're very hard to master. These things have a lot of damage and can still kill even on the higher rounds. However, you have to be able to hit your shots while being akimbo and mostly be hitting headshots. This is a weapon that's much better to use on mouse and keyboard than controller, at least in my opinion, and it's the current best weapon for the Citadel Del More boss fight. Now, with that being said, I don't find myself using this weapon that often. It's great, but you gotta have the skill to be able to use it, and it's got really bad ammo issues, so you're gonna be burning lots of points on ammo. This being the class setup for the Akimbo Sogs. Number 2 is whatever the main wonder weapon is for the map that you're currently playing. I didn't want to put these on the list at multiple different spots as they can only be used on one map each. For Liberty Falls, the jet gun is amazing and it works on all rounds, easily killing zombies if you just keep tap firing the suck button, just enough to kill the zombies but not let the charge go down any. This also stuns manglers and abominations so they can't attack you. On Terminus Island, the beam smasher is fantastic for using the alt fire to weaken and slow enemies, then shooting them in the head for large amounts of damage. Then on Citadel Del More, all of the swords one hit forever with melee macchiato, with the 2 best swords being the light sword and the void sword. The light sword's ultimate fully regenerates your armor when you use it. However, if you fully charge up the light sword and you don't use the ultimate, every time you attack an enemy and hit them, you'll get a little bit of armor back, which is really good. And if you combine this with the Juggernaut reactive plates augments, you'll keep stunning zombies over and over as well. Then the Void Sword's ultimate makes an ether tear, killing all of the zombies and slowing amalgams, making it great for high rounds. The other 2 swords are good as well, they're just not as good as these ones. Then finally, before we go over the number 1 spot, keep in mind that all of the other weapons in this list are still really good and even way better at certain things, but this weapon is just a general jack of all trades weapon that you can never go wrong by using it. This being the AS Val with the underbarrel launcher. It's a great weapon to spawn in with as it does great damage unpack-a-punched. Then when you do pack-a-punch it, it gets triple the magazine size, which makes a big difference. When hitting headshots with this weapon, it does best in class damage. This makes it so it doesn't fall off as fast as the other full auto weapons. It's also a wall weapon on both Terminus Island and Citadel, making it easier to get a higher rarity version of this weapon without using any salvage. But the best part is, since it's an assault rifle, you can use the underbarrel launcher attachments on it, and people have been sleeping on these for way too long. If you're playing Liberty Falls or Terminus Island, I recommend using the smoke grenade launcher, as it's pretty much a free smoke nade that you can use for Easter egg steps, like defusing the bomb on Terminus Island or cranking the valve on Liberty Falls. Then on Citadel, I recommend using the underbarrel launcher, as it's a mini Sigma. Just activate the ring of fire traps and spam the noob tube at the ground. This is great for farming salvage points or just blitzing through rounds. However, the underbarrel launcher doesn't do as much damage as the Sigma, so if you plan on just Sigma spamming, you want to stick with the Sigma, not the underbarrel launcher. So that's what makes the AS Val a jack of all trades and puts it in the number 1 spot for me. It's great for spawning in, it's a wall weapon on most maps, it's great when pack-a-punch, best in class damage, has a smoke launcher for Easter egg steps, and a noob tube for easy trap farming. No matter what you're doing with the AS Val, it can handle it all. Here's the class setup for the AS Val. So that wraps up our top 15 list, which was really more of a top 20 list because we talked about over 20 total weapons. But anyway, keep in mind, depending on your playstyle and what you're currently doing, your top weapon list will look different than mine. So let me know your top 5 favorite weapons down below. And if you want to see any more top zombie weapon lists like this in the future, as we get more DLC weapons and as there's more buffs and nerfs, make sure to unlock that subscribe button. I'll keep you fully up to date. Peace.
Lego unlocked. He's Lego unlocked. It's going to unlock all these candy.